You've been lied to. There's no such thing as perfect tone. Or is there? My name's Daniel Ornelas. I'm the bass instructor here at Worship Artistry. We've got hundreds of songs that talk about tone. Today, I'm going to teach 5 different points on how to get a great tone that works for you. For the first tip, let's talk about picking the right bass. Nowadays, we have this amazing thing called the internet where you can go and look and see what basses the guys are playing in the genre of music that you're trying to create. Back in the old days, we had to guess. But now you can go and say, he's playing this type of bass. So it's actually a lot easier to choose the right bass for the kind of music you're playing. If you search bass guitar on the internet, you'll see so many different things. You'll see big upright basses, you'll see hollow body basses, you'll see electric basses like this. To find the right bass guitar, you need to understand what goes into them. So a hollow body bass has got a real thuddy kind of attack and not much sustain. Some of the new electric basses, the very active ones, you could play a note and you could leave it and 3 months later come back and it'll still be ringing. Not really, but basically that's where I'm getting at. So you've got pickups that make a difference, you've got strings that make a difference, and then the type of bass, the wood that it's made out of, all those type of things. This here is a precision style bass. So Fender made 2 basses, they made a jazz, and they made a precision bass. The jazz is kind of brighter sounding, maple neck sounds a little bit more bright. This is a rosewood neck, it sounds a little bit more dark, a little bit less bright, and you know, my strings are so old that they have a real thuddy kind of older sound, which I love for the kind of music that I play most of the time. That takes me to the next tip, which is string choice. Now, I could have this exact bass with different strings on them, and it'll sound completely different. A good example of that is when I went into the recording studio to record on like a modern worship record, and I had these really dull old strings on. I thought, well, I don't think I can get away with it one more time. So I put brand new strings on. And within a very short time, I had to take those strings off and put the old ones back on because of the kind of tone that I was getting. Although it was lovely and bright when I was playing by myself, as soon as the band kicked in, the bass guitar, the notes disappeared. And it was just really a mess because of the overdrive guitars that were in there. Had I been working in a gospel situation or like an R&B type or funk kind of setup, I would have been sounding perfect with the new strings on because there's not that kind of overdriven guitar which eats up that kind of low mid-range. So sometimes the old strings are the right way to go and sometimes the new strings are the right way to go. But say, for example, you've got your bass, you've got new strings on and you've got to go and play in the sun. You can't buy old strings for the bass online or something like that. You just got new strings on a new bass and you want it to work. There are some little tricks that can help you get through that. One of the things is your tone button, which is the second button on your bass. And if you have an active bass, you might have more than one kind of button. It's the one that kind of takes the treble and amplifies it or kind of cuts it out. Treble is the high end, the hissy sound, and that's the part that if you cut that tone back, it's going to sound as if you've got older strings. Does that make sense? And if you have a bass like mine, my tone's always full because my strings are so old that I need that little bit of brightness just to work in the song that I'm playing. For this next tip, let's talk about how we can use effects on the bass guitar. Not just guitar players have effects. Some bass players have effects too. You'll notice on the song lessons at Worship Artistry that I use different effects for different songs. Primarily, I have a preamp, which is a Sans amp preamp, and that has overdrive on it, which you think, why would you have overdrive on bass? But that's because it creates just a little bit of breakup, which allows that bass note to stick out of the mix a little bit more, just like an electric guitar would do if they had overdrive on. It kind of amplifies that part of the tone and allows you to hear the bass notes really well. On some of the other songs like Elevation and some of these other songs, we actually even have a bigger overdrive, like a big muff or a Ibanez Tube Screamer or something like that to just really break up the sound. And if you listen to it on its own, it's really, really broken up and really overdriven. But in the mix, you might not notice it that much. It just amplifies that piece of the bass, which makes that tone stick out, and you can hear it really well. Effects and string choice and bass choice are not the only things that are going to alter your sound. You can actually play with a pick or finger style, and that's also going to change how the tone sounds on your bass. So for this tip, I just want to show you how you can use your pick, first of all, to alter your sound. When you choose to use a pick, you're getting more of a bite on the front end of the tone. So you're going to get attack. There's a little bit of attack right there that you wouldn't. Also for me, because of the downstrokes that I get with a pick, I'm actually getting precision as well. Besides that, it's helping me get better timing even because of that pick. Now I use a pick on the side, I choose to use the kind of the dull side, not the sharp point, because for bass, it gives me more surface area to grab. And it also is not such a thin little pointy thing that I could miss the string altogether. It's a wider surface point. So I use this pick this way, and and then if you use your palm of your hand, you can actually rest that on the strings, and that allows you to create a little bit of a more staccato feel, and it's kind of muted. So that's more of a muted sound. It creates like these little staccato pieces that are really cool, and they're also not just super loud. A pick doesn't mean you're going to use it just when you're playing super loud. So I love the way you can create percussive sounds with a pick. So that's the pick. Fingerstyle, you're going to have a rounder tone, and so if it's a big old ballad, I'm not going to be striking those with a pick on every single note. I'm going to be playing with fingerstyle, and I usually use my index and my middle finger so that it allows you to have some dexterity when you start playing. So you'll notice the sound is more round. It's kind of got a little bit more to the bass even than a pick, because you lose a little bit of those mid-range tones when you strike it with a pick. This next tip is talking about EQ. We've talked a little bit about EQ because changing the tone on the bass really is changing the EQ already. But most people have access to more EQ changes either on their kind of preamp pedal or on the bass amp. And obviously the guy that's at the front of house that's mixing you has access to EQ as well, which can change your tone. Now, the problem I see a lot is that when you're listening to a bass all on its own in a bedroom and you've got an amp there, the most pleasing way to hear that sound is if you dig out some of the mid-range where all the mistakes sound. You know, if you push the lows up and the highs up, it's going to give you a really nice, big, old funky sound that you're going to be able to play in your bedroom with. But as soon as you came in with a band, that whole sound would just disappear, and all you'd hear is the little high-end stuff that's like little lobster's claws on a playing bass, and you'll hear the super low end, which sounds like just Dumbledore stumbling around upstairs somewhere. So those are the tones you're going to end up with if you cut out all the mid-range. So I don't really like the ability to mess with tone, because if you've got a good instrument, your tone's probably pretty much right already. If you're having to do radical things to your tone, as far as the EQ, there's something else probably wrong. So this is a great opportunity to have a good conversation with your sound guy or the front of house guy and make sure that he also understands what bass guitar is. It's not just bass. I've been to churches where I see the bass is cranked full and all the other tones are pulled out because they think, well, it's bass, right? But that's not really true. Bass guitar doesn't even sit right that far down in the lows. It's actually like a lower mid-range instrument, really, if you think about it. And so the best way to think about it is to say, let's have a conversation so that I can provide you with my full range of tone and you can carve it up exactly like it should be for the sound of the room. If you give someone your tone too altered, there's no ways they can put those frequencies back in to your tone if you've already chopped them out. So they're gone. It's like taking a few colors out of the rainbow and saying, let's make a rainbow at front of house. And that's not going to happen if you've already taken those frequencies out. For this final tip, let's talk again about the tone knob. I know I've mentioned it before, but I just want to hit on a couple of extra little thoughts here. So in a set, you might be playing a real up-tempo praise song right at the beginning of the set, and then you go into a real kind of down worship song at the end of the set. And so you might want that bright attack in the first song where everyone's all in and the whole band's thundering at full on 10, and you want that brightness so that the bass peaks out nicely and you can hear it well in the mix. But then when you get into that super slow worship song and there's just piano and vocals and you want to come in a little bit on maybe high up on the neck and you don't want to just be like really too out there, you can roll the tone right back and have a really subby kind of bass forward tone that can just provide a beautiful silky tone to your kind of big notes that you're playing or your upper kind of little moves that you're making in the top of the bass for a worship song that's more down and you're kind of right in the middle of the mix there. So just think about using your tone knob as kind of your main thing when it comes to your tone. That's all I got for you today for tone, but I would love for you to go down, look at that link below and sign up for a free trial for Worship Artistry. We've got hundreds of songs, and before every song I talk about tone. I want to help you learn about tone so you can be set up for success and you can feel confident. All right, we hope to see you in the next video.